I have the pleasure of introducing our keynote speaker. 32-year-old Justin Case Condor was born and raised in Fresno, California. He is a 2004 graduate of Fresno State and received his first photo assignment from Sports Illustrated at just 17 years old. For 6 years as an undergrad, he worked for Fresno State's Athletic Media Relations, where he honed his skills as a photographer. Today, Justin is an international photographer for the community service and adventure-based travel company, Rustic Pathways. And in fact, when we set up this gig, we Skyped and he was in Istanbul. How cool is that? And while, excuse me, while he spends nearly 10 months a year working internationally, he always manages to find his way home to the Central Valley, where his friends, his family, and his trusty $150 1994 Geo Metro all reside. Please help me welcoming Justin Case Condor.
As someone who regularly takes about 2,000 photos a month on my phone, I figured I'd regret not taking that picture. Good morning. My name is Justin Case Condor. Justin is my first name, Case is my middle name. Most of you will get that right away. Some of you, it might take a little bit longer. I sat in a ceremony like this here at Fresno State only 9 years ago. While it may have taken me 6 years to graduate, I did. And the reality is, I did it as a President's Scholar. I am incredibly honored and very humbled to have the opportunity to speak to you this morning. My life has led me on an incredible journey, one beyond my wildest dreams. But even as unbelievable as it's been, I never imagined that it would entail speaking to you as I am today. As Professor Hayes indicated, I am an international photographer. In the last 4 months, my work has taken me to the United Arab Emirates, Egypt, Lebanon, Oman, Kenya, South Africa, Turkey, England, and Scotland. In fact, in just the last 3 years, the tool called a camera has allowed me to visit 22 countries on 5 different continents. I have photographed our most recent president's inauguration, as well as a previous one's funeral. But here are a few images from international images I've captured. My work has been published in magazines and newspapers throughout the United States. It's appeared on the cover of a book, the front pages of our country's largest newspapers, and on the covers of thousands and thousands of catalogs that have been distributed internationally to hundreds of different countries. Because of this tool, I have dove to the depths of Australia's Great Barrier Reef and climbed to the summit of Mount Kilimanjaro. For those of you who are fans of sports, I have photographed from from the sidelines of numerous NFL and Major League Baseball games, been inside Fenway's Green Monster, been knee-deep in Aspen snow photographing the Winter X Games, and covered more drive straight, turn left NASCAR than anyone could ever imagine. My journey as a photojournalist has been an unbelievably incredible one. But as exciting as those photos are, and as impressive as it sounds, my life has not always been this way. See, I grew up on welfare in a single-wide mobile home just west of Highway 99. I have vivid memories of that time. One of which stands out the most is that of me walking down the center of the street that ran in front of my mobile. I remember walking down that street and thinking about the people who lived in the mobile homes near mine. In this house was Colleen, whose mother abused her, and this, David and Francine, whose fights were so loud you could hear them several houses away. And that, Tiffany, who was pregnant around 23 by a guy she hardly knew from around the corner. And just a few mobiles down, in space 76, my space, two crack addicts, who were also my parents. I remember vividly jumping on my bike at around 11 years old and following my dad out of the park and down the street towards Motel Drive, where he was riding to buy drugs, convinced that I could shame him from doing otherwise. I remember vividly staying up into the wee hours of the night, peering past the flaky, sun-baked styrofoam that sat in the window next to my bed, waiting for my dad to come home. Lying awake until the headlights of his car shone through my window after he had left to buy my parents' next hit. Of assembling toys on Christmas Eve for my little brothers, knowing that my parents would be too high and too passed out to do so before they woke up Christmas morning. And I remember standing in the middle of that street and thinking to myself, what am I going to do to see to it that my life doesn't end up like these? Because every circumstance in my world at that moment suggested that I was destined to become a statistic. I made a decision that day that whatever it took, I was going to change the path my life was on. Many of you in this audience can relate to my story. You, like me, stood in the middle of your own personal road and asked yourself the same question I did. What would it take to change your family tree? To impede the trajectory that statistics suggested your life would take. Many of you, like me, are the first in your families to graduate from college. There are those among you who work 2 and 3 jobs to sit in this very room and wear these very cap and gowns that you have on now. Who have ridden the bus in the wee hours of the morning or banged on your neighbor's door to get a jump start before class because the dome light was left on after carrying your younger brother and sister into the house late the night before. I remember riding my bike on this campus as a junior in high school. I went to a school just down the street, Hoover High, and one Saturday afternoon, on a day like today, riding along, I saw a photographer taking portraits of students, much like yourselves. I stopped to ask him if I might have a bit of his time to come and talk about his job and what he had done to arrive at the career he had. His name was Randy Von Dada, and he was the university's photographer. As it would happen, when I returned to meet with him that following Monday, Greg Lewis, this department's former photojournalism professor, who is with us in the audience today, was passing by and came in to introduce himself. He told me about how in 2 years I could attend this university, take his classes, and learn the skills to be a photojournalist. But 2 years was a long way off, and I was not interested in waiting. What could I do to start now? I asked him. How can I start today? I'll never forget just 2 weeks after that conversation, ditching my class at Hoover and coming to Fresno State to pick up a copy of the Daily Collegian, which had a photo with my name under it on the front page. The desire and motivation that I showed that day when I spoke to Professor Lewis It is the same desire and motivation that allowed me to be invited to stand at this very podium now. The same motivation and desire that kept me from bowing out when professionals critiqued my early portfolios and told me how far I had yet to go. The diligence that kept me after school throughout 4 years of high school so I could get extra help from my teachers whose classes I struggled in. See, the reality was I've never been the smartest kid, nor the most talented photographer. But my unwavering persistence and my diligence have been the impetus for every success that I've had. Today, my father has been clean and sober for 22 years. He and my stepmom own and run a small business that employs 17 people. A few of him share the former struggles of his own. And while my mom lives a very humble life, she has been drug-free for nearly as long. I didn't come here today to tell you, if I can do it, you can too. What I came here today to tell you is that your hard work and endurance have the potential to take you further than you or a young kid standing in the middle of a street of his mobile home park could ever have imagined. But that is my story. Today is about you. Congratulations, class of 2013. Your hard work and your endurance will carry you further than you ever could imagine.